Oh, that's right. You don't get the chicken on that one. You have to play the next cut on the album to get the chicken at the beginning of it. Hey, good morning. It is 4 minutes past 10. Just Paul with you. Time now for community service. I've got joined in the studio Mike Thornton here.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, your mic's working. Yay.
Cool.
And I had originally, this was kind of, this is how the universe provides. I had double booked for 10 o'clock because earlier in the week I said, yeah, sure. Come on in at 10. We'll talk about big stuff that's going on. And then yesterday, got this weekly thing that Sarah Carone comes in and does. And so I said, hey, are we okay? And she came back late last night on Facebook. We're like, yeah, how's 10? And I wasn't even thinking. And I'm like, yeah, sure, that's great. And then I wake up this morning and she can't make it. It's a busy, busy day out there for her. And she was trying to squeeze in between meetings and things like that. And so it all worked out.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what they say? It's better to be lucky than good, you know?
Really? Is that a thing?
Have you seen Deadpool?
Yes, the first one.
Well, the second one, there's one of the superheroes whose superpower is that she's lucky. It's very cool.
That's nice. I like that. That's good. I do need to see that. That was really the only superhero movie I got into at all, just watching that.
Well, maybe you have to get on Shane's show and talk about sci-fi and nerd culture.
They have, and they've actually. This is what's special about this whole. Somebody comes in, a listener, and Shane's been on these. Come on and talked about the library and things, and enjoys KFUG, and he had this idea to have this show. And I listened to the first show. First off, it was nice having people, under the age of 30 or about there, I assume, but who come in and I don't have to explain how to double click on something on the computer. That's refreshing knowledge to have. It really speeds up the training process when it comes to becoming a DJ. So they came in, it was like 5 minutes, and this guy sat down, Sean, the other host of the show. He sat down, I showed him one time on the board. He's like, okay, got it. I'm like, great, all right. I go back in and I'm listening in the house and I'm doing work on the computer and just making sure everything's cool with them. And they geeked out for a solid hour. It was charming. Wow. And just asides into anime and video games and Marvel movies. And I was really happy to have them on KFUG. They've worked up using a text-to-voice app.
Oh, okay.
They've worked up an intro, and they're actually working on a third character, a virtual character that will exist. So, yeah. It's refreshing radio, and that's just part and parcel of a lot of bigger things that are happening at KFUG. Right, starting with. Okay, so we have an intern, and we had our first day of work yesterday, so there's actually posts on Twitter and on Instagram for the first time in months, so that's good. Working on a video for a YouTube channel, sort of expanding our social media presence. And then another big development is that you retired from True North this last week.
I did, and I was saying earlier that it's a little bit like Tony Romo, right? This is an obscure NFL reference, maybe not many people who listen go, well, what is he talking about? Who's Tony Romo? But anyway, Tony Romo was a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. He played in the league. He was,
when? Because you said Tony, and I thought that was some guy on the Patriots. But no, he was a quarterback for the Cowboys. Like when? Like before. Roger Staubach, right? Or after?
No. Before Dak Prescott. He's relatively new. Anyway, you're a basketball guy.
Yeah.
You know what? I couldn't tell you 5 players in the NBA, but I'm a football guy.
See, and this is diversity in action.
Diversity in action. Yeah. So anyway, the whole thing is I have retired from True North, and so I'm not representing True North. I'm not speaking for True North, and kind of like the Tony Romo analogy, I played in the league, I was a player, and now I'm a commentator. And I actually really relish the opportunity to have this role. It's similar to something I did previously when I was at the KVMR for a number of years. And so it's just a great opportunity to do something new and something that I used to do and really enjoyed doing.
And you've got so can you... First off, 2 things. I want just to speak to the experience you have and the previous thing, because it's really impressive, and it's impressive to me. And then the other thing, it's got to be hard for the community. And I think it has been difficult for the community. I get a call from my mom, or a text from my mom earlier this week, and she'd said, I heard Mike Thornton's retiring from True North, that he's going to be doing more at KFUG.
Wow.
I'm like, Where did you hear this? Yes, Mom. I don't know who your sources are, but you need to come work in our news department.
I was going to say, it sounds like a news director to me.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. So it gets around, and you have been such a voice in the community, and you've only been here a couple of years.
That's true. Yes.
It's going to be hard for the community to sort of separate your face from True North, I think.
Yeah, I think it will be, but it'll happen as people begin to, hopefully understand that it's a different role and that things in life change. I've had a number of roles in my life, and sometimes, kind of different types of prominence in a community overlapping.
Okay.
So, yeah, but
what's that? That sounds that's an interesting story, I think, in that one sentence.
Well, I mean, so sort of the short version of the life of Mike Thornton is for most of my first half of my life. And I was a run-amok person out on the streets, running with that kind of crowd and, in and out of, various types of bad situations and homeless and drug addicted and all of that kind of stuff and running with those kind of people. And then now I've been clean 35 years or so. And, I'd have a whole different life. And the first part of that started off with running drug rehab programs for people who were kind of like me, and then kind of molding that into mental health, and then moving from that into radio, news, and music, and all of that. And then in 2008, since 2008, mostly I've been doing community organizing in one form or another, and here we are in 2019, and hopefully having an opportunity to get back into doing some radio. So, there's been a lot that's gone on.
Before we get away from your time in True North and community organizing here in Delaware County, successes, failures, what are the high points from those 2 years? What are you proud of accomplishing?
Well, I think the most thing is I'm really proud of the grassroots leaders in this community who rallied around taking on things that are difficult, particularly the work on homelessness. There's also work on education related to the school and its LCAP process and ensuring that community members and students and families have genuine input into how that money is spent. And then also some of the work around immigration, particularly related to the misguided attempts of one of our county supervisors to, just kind of constantly promote bashing SB 54 or opting out of the California Values Act or all of this stuff. And so, the people who were involved in that and the fact that I was able to be part of that, I think are the things I'm the most proud of.
I know that the LOC, the local organizing committee that you put together around the issue of homelessness, it was a diverse, committed group of people,
and still is.
That's wonderful, and then the work will continue.
It still will.
Okay, so one thing people talk about, when I'm like, okay, so my text reply to my mom was, and she says, what's Mike going to do for KFUG? And I said, well, and went off on these things. So your past radio experience, you've been an overseas correspondent.
I have, actually. I went to the Middle East on a couple of occasions. I was in Syria and Lebanon.
Wow, when?
Mid-2000s.
Okay.
And then also Israel and the West Bank.
Wow.
As well. Same time frame, more or less. And then also did some work in El Salvador and Guatemala around the U.S. Army School of the Americas and the activities that were, had happened there.
Okay, so just as an aside for a future conversation topic on the air,
yes.
your impressions of Elliot Abrams and his reemergence from under the rock.
I think it's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
There is such and most people don't know the history of all of that. And let me be really, really clear, okay? I have a point of view. I do not like our current president. I think he is really bad for the country. It has nothing to do with conservative or liberal or any of that. And when you see the kind of people who are coming back into the administration, like Abrams, like John Bolton, these people who are warmongers, I don't know how else to say it.
But some would even argue criminals.
Oh,
criminals.
Yes, and in fact, when you start looking back at some of the stuff that was going on in the Reagan administration with some of these people, and the Bush administration, and all the way back to the Nixon administration, they're recycling these same people, and it's dangerous. It truly is dangerous. And I know that there's some people who go, "Oh, you're bashing the president." No, I say, look at the history of who these people are and what they've done.
It's not like I can understand being a devoted conservative and going, all right, I'm going to go back, I'm going to harvest kind of the cream of the crop from old school GOP stuff up to the neoconservative. No, these are the dregs, these people that are coming up.
Yes, and invariably they are the people who just seem to can't wait to go to war somewhere.
Yeah.
But of course, see, they never go, and their kids never go, and their kids' never go. But they are quick to send somebody else, and quick to play these sort of geopolitical global games of Stratego and stuff. Yeah. And it's all like this big game to them, except real people suffer and die, and they don't seem to care about any of that.
Did you see the clip of Representative Omar questioning Elliott Abrams?
I did, actually, and that's another one. I mean, I've been to Israel. I've talked to Palestinian rights activists, Israeli Jewish Palestinian rights activists,
which exists
in Israel, which exists. There's actually much more debate about these issues in Israel than there is here, and so she brings this up about, Zionist and what's going on. Zionist is very different than Jewish.
Yes,
it's
people
a
don't
different
realize.
thing. And so, immediately, boom, AIPAC is on her and everyone else. It's really a important issue, and the fact that she and some of these other younger members of Congress, particularly some of these younger women, are actually standing
women
up.
of color who are standing up and
standing up and saying, "Oh, no, we're not taking this. We're not playing the game the way it used to be played." And so I give them a lot of credit. Like anybody else, maybe they can choose their words better sometimes, but the facts are the facts.
Yeah. And as far as choosing your words, that bar has been lowered. So if it's a complete sentence, you're going to have the leg up in this era of debate.
Good point.
What I enjoyed was especially the poetry of, here's a man who is some would say arguably, I wouldn't, who is a war criminal based on what he championed in the 80s in Central America, being grilled in public by a member of Congress in an oversight relationship who was once a Syrian refugee.
Right.
That's America.
Right.
It's not a MAGA hat. It's not a wall at the border. That right there to me is America.
Absolutely, it is. I couldn't agree with you more.
Okay, all right. So got off on that.
Okay.
This is also just adumbration, if you will. This is the kind of thing that I'm looking forward to being able to do with you on the air, is to go off like this. So
I'm good with it.
You're good with it? Yeah. So you spent time in the Middle East, traveled over, and you did this for a small radio station down in Nevada City.
I did, for KVMR FM, a community radio station.
Which is, would it be kind of an equivalent if you took out sort of the college radio aspect of KHSU as far as a regional voice down there?
Well, so KVMR started out pretty much Nevada County centric, right? Okay. But then as a result of, KVMR has been in operation, 40 years maybe?
Yeah, it's like one of those stations. It's kind of grandfathered into public radio, sort of?
Well, they're not. They're still independent community radio.
And non-commercial?
Non-commercial,
That's
absolutely.
Wow.
But over time have, really, it started out in a little room in the Miners Foundry, then moved into its own building, now owns its own building, started out with a very small studio and not a whole lot of equipment. And now it's like, 3 state-of-the-art broadcast studios.
Wow.
And, it's just, it's really grown a lot. But when I was there, one of the things that happened was we got a rural services grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And the premise of getting that grant was that you could do one of two things: buy programming from the national market or create programming for the national market. And so KVMR said, we're going to try to create programming for the national market as being our main use of this money.
That's kind of ballsy to come out of the gate like that, right?
Oh yeah, no, and I mean, I wound up covering 3 presidential conventions, a couple of World Trade Organization meetings. I mean, even up in Seattle in 1999, which was wild.
Yeah, I remember, like I've said this before, listening to I think it was KPFA broadcast that was rebroadcast, and I was working at the time down in the Bay Area. I had an evening shift where what I was doing was I could listen to the radio while I worked, and just listening to that scene in the streets in Seattle.
Yeah,
and you were there
great.
In the midst of it. That's funny.
I was at one point. I was literally in the gap between all of the riot-clad police and then 50,000. Protesters. Like I'm right in the middle in that gap with my microphone. No, I loved it. I turned a corner and then I'm marching down the street with Jimmy Hoffa Jr. in front of 5,000 Teamsters. I mean, it was just that. It's that kind of thing where you just everywhere you turn, there's a story.
Yeah.
And you just fall into it.
Oh man,
it was great. I loved it.
It's like you open the door. What's outside? Oh, the Zeitgeist. Okay, great. Let's go hang out. So you did that for how many years? How many years were you working for KVMR?
All in all, I think I was with KVMR. Well, I started out as a volunteer music DJ and then started moving into public affairs. I don't know, probably 12 years or so.
Wow,
something
that's
like
a long
that.
time.
Something like that, And then eventually became the news director.
So and Peabody? Was that what was the award?
Oh no!
No. There was something big, wasn't there?
Well, no, but nothing like a Peabody. We actually
was it a Sherman?
No,
It's a Sherman.
That's good.
Thank you.
That's good. There's probably only a few people who caught that reference, but no. What it was, so we created. So KVMR's news department started under the tutelage of Paul Emery, who is now the news director there. And he assembled a group of people, myself included, to start gathering news and all of that stuff. Almost all of them went to work in commercial or non-commercial radio at some point after that. So anyway, we came in, I started working, then we moved towards creating an evening news program. And by the time it was said and done, and I think this was 2006, we won the Sacramento News and Review Best Radio News Program, which is slightly below a Peabody.
But it's still prestigious.
But it was
That's
still
good.
pretty cool, considering that we were a radio station that was 60 miles away and was broadcasting into Sacramento based upon the fact that our signal was going downhill.
You're up on the hill,
and
right?
we had a translator.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but I mean, that was a pretty good accomplishment.
Yeah.
I was very proud of all the work that people did to make that happen.
And so we've been talking as Tuesday was your last day at True North here we've been talking since then, before and since, about things to do with KFUG, and I've been excited about getting your experience involved here, and everything from the community organizing side to the journalism side to the broadcast side, and so really excited about things. We can talk about sort of thumbnail plans because we're still working out details,
right?
But basically, it is to bring that news sort of know-how to KFUG and to expand, I wouldn't say anything like what I have done as news, because a lot of times the features that I work on are, third and fourth thing on the list of things to do, and it takes a while to do it, and I try to be, on top of it, but I think the last thing I worked on was the homelessness issue, and I've been wrapped up researching this other thing that hopefully will have something produced here within the next couple of weeks, but I can't do it on a regular daily basis at all, and having having you involved with KFUG and your know-how and the commitment, and even like, I'm working yesterday. I'm at the computer and I'm getting messages from you about, hey, check this out online, and I'm like, yeah, okay, this is great. This is stuff I wouldn't have had the time to go and discover, and so we're talking about trying to get a team together and the funds together and all of this together, basically, so that we can start doing local news on a regular basis. The first step toward that being in a couple of weeks, on the 3rd or on the 4th of March, rather, you will sort of start your own version of this show, but on Monday.
That's right. And we're looking really forward to that. Still, we have to figure out what we're going to call it.
Yeah.
I'm good with calling it community service.
We can have like a franchise kind of thing
we
going.
We could do that, whatever. But that's going to be the first thing. And it's going to be a 2-hour public affairs program. Mm-hmm. And we've lined up the first couple of guests. We've got Police Chief, Crescent City Police Chief Ivan Minsel.
Nice.
Who's going to come on and talk about modern, what's the role of police in our modern society.
That's great.
Then also, how does that play out in a area like this, mm-hmm. right? And then also we'll learn about Chief Minsel and where he's come from and what he has brought with him to our community. And then the other guest is going to be Robin Fornoff, who is editor of The Triplicate and the Pilot, and we're going to talk about news and news coverage and get his perspective on all of that.
Okay, so I can get guests. I can get guests too. I've never even thought about asking Robin Fornoff to come because I just assumed he would say no.
He said yes. That's quick.
That's wonderful. That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is really, really cool. And Chief Ivan, every interaction I've had with, every interaction I've heard about that he's had, I like him.
Oh, I do too. I have a lot of respect for him. And it was one of those things that when I first met him, I just went, okay, let me kind of figure out who this guy is and mm-hmm. what he's about. And, I have to say the way he has publicly stood up over and over for the civil rights of the poor and disenfranchised, I just have a tremendous amount of respect for him. And so I'm really looking forward. And he agreed to be on the show immediately, as did Robin. And so I really look forward to talking with them to, get their perspectives on, these big things that they are doing in this community. How do they see that? How do they see that, particularly with Ivan Minsel having come from having a long career as a Los Angeles police officer, mm-hmm. And what's the difference between that and this and those kinds of things. So that's the start. And we're already starting to think about, who will be on for the second show.
That's wonderful.
But
wow.
so I really look forward to it. I hope it will be something that the community, the listeners find of worth. And as with all of the programming on here, and just the fact that KFUG exists, that people will be willing as individuals and businesses to step up and support programming mm-hmm. here financially. Mm-hmm. It takes money to do this stuff. It takes money and time, and people can put in all the time they want, and the power company still wants money. You can volunteer all the energy you've got, and if you need a phone patch so you can do a live phone-in show, you need to pay the company money.
Yep. They don't take volunteer hours.
They don't take volunteer hours as much as we might wish they would. Mm-hmm. So I really hope that, people will, as they already, in my opinion, should know, that financially supporting a community radio station like KFUG is in their interest to do so, and we'll look for ways to encourage people to do that.
And I want to be clear too, that's not a browbeating of the community at all, because what I have found is the support's out there, and it increasing, honestly, every year there's more and more support, more and more people know what's happening and support what we do. Really, the bottleneck for underwriting and for fundraising has just been me having the time to get out and be a salesperson as well, which honestly, in my own personal list of priorities, is way down because I hate doing that. But just to go out, to go and you talk to somebody for a couple of minutes, you realize, okay, yeah, they're a supporter. They're gonna like what we're doing. They're gonna champion and help.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it and certainly is not browbeating. I hate those kinds of things where they try to like guilt and browbeat and all of that stuff.
What happens if we go away?
Right. Yeah. No. Actually, anyone who tells you about doing fundraising on community radio tells you not to do that.
Yeah, okay.
But people do that anyway. No, I mean, it really...
So no hostage scenario. We can't play that up,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah, okay. Right.
But, I mean, I think the thing is, Paul, for me, it's like, some of it comes out of my radio background and some of it comes out of my organizing background. It's like, unless you ask...
That's true. Yeah.
Then, people don't know, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a kind of a saying in PICO, it's a PICO principle. It's like if your no isn't worth anything, what good is your yes?
Okay.
But you got to ask people, look, this is in your interest to do so. We really hope you will. It's clearly your decision. We're going to do everything that we can to be here, whether you do or not.
Yeah, yeah.
But, hey, if you want to help out, please do so.
And as we expand and do all of these new things and kind of grow like this, having your business or your name attached to that and celebrated is that's what we can bring to the table.
Right.
As well as all the new programming and the excitement for having Mike and his experience involved with KFUG. Yeah, we're going to be hitting the streets and knocking on your doors too and shaking hands and
calling phones.
Being a salesman. Oh, yeah, and calling on phones. Yeah. Oh, and we've got a list of people. If you're on our list, beware.
And if you're not on our list, you could get on our list.
Yeah. We've been talking about doing like a big radio station stuff, like pledge drives, membership drives, things like that. But we don't have enough tote bags yet. We'll have to get the KFUG tote bags or stash box. Which I don't know.
I don't know. That's a good question. We could do a poll, right? Okay. So if we're
what's the swag?
Here's the poll.
What do you need?
The Facebook poll is: do you want a bumper sticker, a coffee mug, a tote bag, or a stash box?
That's it. Whatever it is.
Different levels of membership, right?
And really, it'll all be the bumper sticker because we'll just get these things and slap the bumper sticker on them. Here you go.
I like that.
That's it. Well, anything else you want to cover? We want to get out? What haven't we talked about?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, you know what? Can we talk just a little bit about the public statement that the True North Homelessness LOC published in the paper?
Okay, yes, let's do this. Let's pay a bill or two here by making one of those underwriters happy, and then we'll be. And I'm talking slowly, so I'm letting this wake up. Thank you, computer. You're tuned to a community service with me, just Paul, and joined with Mike Thornton across the desk here. And community service, I don't say this enough, and I need to say it enough, is brought to you by State Farm Insurance Agent Mary Dorman.
Support for KFUG Community Radio comes from State Farm Insurance Agent Mary Dorman. Mary's office is located at 490 L Street in Crescent City at the corner of 5th and 101 South. You can reach Mary at 464-2414 or online at marydorman.com. For all your insurance needs, call State Farm Insurance Agent and KFUG underwriter Mary Dorman. Thanks, Mary. Today's broadcast is underwritten in part by Connie McDonald of Soulfeet. If you're looking to restore the natural balance of mind, body, and spirit from head to toe, then Connie is the person to know. You can reach Connie at 707-465-3029 or at her Soulfeet studio, 1059 9th Street in Crescent City. Connie, thanks for supporting KFUG Community Radio.
Indeed, Connie McDonald and Soulfeet, thank you. I'm going to have to talk to you soon because next week, a week from today, in fact, I believe, is that true? Let me make sure before yes. It's the, no, it's not. It'll be the last Friday. All right, so 2 weeks from today is the first Friday, right? No. It's a week from today because that's the first because February is 28 days this year. I forget. So a week from today, it's the first Friday of March, so there's going to be a lot of things going on, and I'm going to do what I can to get a downtown diva out of downtown and out here on Elk Valley, and we'll sit down and talk about the live music and the food and all the fun stuff that happens downtown the first Friday of each month. Okay, so we were meeting earlier this week at Starbucks, and you got a phone call. and it was asking for specific information just about your role and True North and what's happening with the homeless initiative and all of this. Mike Thornton has a statement.
Right. I just want to be clear about a couple of things, because I know how small town rumor mill goes, you know. And
I've heard that.
Yeah, right. So as Paul was saying, we were having a meeting and I got a call from one of the county supervisors, basically, questioning me about, my role with True North and the conditions of me leaving and all of that, and related particularly to the work that the Homelessness LOC was doing. And if you've read the Triplicate or the Crescent City Times, you have seen the statement regarding the homelessness work that the Homelessness LOC made, and
got the city council and the board of supervisors to agree to sign off on.
Yes. And so the one thing that I really want to make clear, well, there's two things. One is that my leaving at the time that the Homelessness LOC decided what direction it was going in are two different things. They're completely separate. They have nothing to do with each other. That project in this community is run and guided by members of this community who are continuing their work on homelessness and making what I believe are intelligent, strategic decisions and plans about how they are going to use their time and their energy trying to address this crucial problem in our community. So, me leaving, me retiring, them wanting to go in a different direction, two totally separate things.
Yeah. And so, and the phone call was sort of about whether or not you had been forced out for any sort of background.
And that was the
reasons.
other thing that I wanted to clarify. One of the supervisors, and he just sort of seemed kind of invested in having it be this way, so you were forced out because, some supervisor was mad because you called them on what you perceived as their problematic behavior. No. I was not forced out because some supervisor wanted me forced out. Okay. I retired. I'm like eligible for Medicare and Social Security. I have like this super cool van motorhome that good friends have built for me. I have this great opportunity to be involved with a cool enterprise like KFUG and actually make time to go places in my super cool motorhome.
He is a card-carrying retiree.
Right. That's right. I'm actually applying for Social Security next month. And the only reason I'm waiting to next month is because I'll wind up getting $100 more a year if I do.
That's nice. That's good. That's worth it right there.
So there you go. Please don't try to create a drama that doesn't exist. There's plenty of drama that exists, and we'll have lots of opportunity to talk about all of that. But we don't need to talk about drama that doesn't exist.
So do you? I don't know. So. Okay, well, we'll see what your answer is. I'm trying to second guess what your answer will be.
Hey, what good is my yes if my no isn't?
There you go.
Right?
It's True North going forward without you. Do you have any idea what? Just as you part ways and kind of look at them, what direction are they heading in?
Well, that's a really good question. I see let me back up just a second.
Okay.
Community organizing, as it has been practiced from the time that, I'm not going to say Saul Alinsky invented it, you know what I mean? But, more or less, is an incredibly vital component of being successful in creating justice and equity in communities. I cannot see any way why that work will not continue to go forward. There are people in this community who are dedicated and committed to using those tried and true techniques, tools, and strategies in order to make positive change in their community, particularly on behalf of the poorest, the most disenfranchised, the most marginalized. And I don't see any reason why that would change in any way. It just will be happening and I'll be Tony Romo. That's
you'll be looking at it.
Which I like being Tony Romo. I don't want to be Robert Kraft, but I'll be Tony Romo.
All right. So, yeah, I guess, and we talked about that and had conversations about the attempt to get the community to buy into, at least with the homeless initiative, and kind of just meeting. Are you happy to not be faced with that sort of frustration anymore, as far as trying to get these other people to move and to herd them, I guess?
Well, let me push back a little bit on the herd thing, okay?
I was proud of that.
No, you can be proud of it. That's okay. I just want to push back on it because I genuinely believe that the real key is helping people see that doing these things is actually in their own interest. So it's and sometimes that's a challenge, particularly when people get wrapped around the axle of their own politics or ideologies or whatever, and that's challenging. I guess, on the one hand, I guess the answer is yes, because I feel like if I'm going to be fully back in my role as a news person, as a political commentator, as those kinds of things, I am free of some restraints that I had. But on the other hand, I genuinely believe in doing that kind of work, and particularly in a community where so many people have been traditionally and habitually, kind of locked out of being able to be full participants in community, political, and economic life. So, it's kind of like a mixed bag, like most things are. On the one hand, yes, maybe there's some things I can do in media that I couldn't do in organizing. And, there are things obviously in organizing that I wouldn't be able to be doing in media that I still believe in with all my heart.
It almost seems like a community where community organizing work is the hardest is a community that needs it the most.
Yeah. No, it's true because I think so anyway, this is just my opinion, right? Okay.
Yes, from the Romo desk.
Yeah, from the Romo desk, yes. So to me, I think that the biggest campaign in any community that is really impacted by, poverty and disenfranchisement is the campaign to raise up human dignity. Because so often people are just so beat down and don't even in many cases realize that they have the right to expect more. And so I think a lot of the work is getting people to that point where they go, well, wait a minute, I'm a human being. You know what? These people actually work for me. And I have a right to expect more of them than I do. And so a lot of times that's the biggest thing. And then when you have folks who most of their energy is going into just surviving, and it's like, it's hard to like kind of step back from that. And it's like Maslow's, hierarchy of needs, right? It's really hard to get to self-actualization when you're trying to figure out how you're going to, how you're going to get food for your kids, or how you're going to get money to fix the flat tire on your car, So I mean, it really is that way. And then I think where you have power that is almost as multi-generational as the trauma that many of the people in our community have, it's really entrenched. And there seems to be, in some cases, a history of, well, why would anybody who's just a regular person think they have the right to ask us anything?
That's what seems to be, for me, the most insidious aspect of all the things you've just been talking about, is that the status quo, after a while, and after you've spent, a lifetime in that status quo with your shoulder to the wheel, your nose to the grindstone, trying to just live on a day-to-day basis, that not only do you lose track of a more meta-level perspective but you also come to like lose that sense of I have a right
Yes.
to other things. I have a right to a different. Instead of you just like, oh, this is the way it is, and you get mired in that, and you don't. After a while, you don't even think to question it anymore because you've internalized it.
Well, and it's really true because I mean, think about it, right? That for just regular working Joe or Jane, right? Okay. If they say to an elected official or, somebody who works for the government and is paid by tax dollars, if they say, hey, wait a minute, you work for me, I don't work for you, that's considered like a radical, crazy, communist, democratic, socialist, satanic statement. And it's like, no, wait a minute. You work for me.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around. And that has gotten lost. I mean, the public servants in many cases have become the public bosses. And they genuinely think that they're the public bosses because the people who really are the bosses have forgotten that they're the ones who actually have the right and the ability to call the shots.
Yeah, exactly. There was a push a couple of years ago it was more than that, maybe 4 years ago. The city was doing this thing, and they were having posters they were going to put up all over because they wanted to. It was a good-hearted thing. They wanted to make the person who answers the phone at City Hall and Hall, that 80s box downtown. It looks like it's the Fred Travalina of buildings. But anyway, they were putting up posters and talking about, being more responsive on the phone, being more responsive to the citizens of but they were building it. The whole thing was along like a customer service sort of model, talking about being more reactive to the customer. No, we're not customers. And I'd get irate about this. We're your boss. Don't look at it like you're serving a customer. Look at it like you're doing what your boss told you to do. So it was that whole consumer, like making us all consumers.
Right.
I'm not down with that.
And like George Lakoff, who's a person, does a lot about language, just like Noam Chomsky, like we've gone from this thing of like, citizen to resident to consumer. And it's like, so that's your role. All your role is to just like buy stuff and consume stuff because you're a cog in the machine.
Yeah,
you are a cog, and that's it. And your role is to like buy stuff and be in debt and buy stuff and then get sick and die because you can't afford to buy health care.
It's like they want us to be a bacterium, and they live as a bacterial colony, and we'll consume, we'll create waste, and we'll die. And thanks.
Pretty much, But the other thing, Paul, and I realize I'm kind of on my rant here, and
that's why
I have to admit I'm enjoying it. The other thing is that very often, I think the other thing, you talked about what can be frustrating, right? Okay, the most frustrating thing is that in many cases, we're our own worst enemy.
Yeah, how so? How do you mean?
Well, because people they just refuse to work together, right? It's like, well, you're too white. Well, you're too male. Well, you're too Indian. Well, you're too this. Well, you're not liberal enough.
Or even more for me, more insidious again is I can't trust anything you say. I don't trust your motivations. I can't work with you. And
that's the thing is that so much of the kind of strategy is to keep everybody divided.
Yeah, the atomization, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And so the other thing is like, so everybody sort of silos, right? And it's like actually, in most cases, outside of some things, we actually want the same things. And so like, okay, so the things we disagree on, let's put those aside for now, and then work together on the things that we can work together on. And then the other thing that I find just incredibly frustrating is the inability and or unwillingness to understand that going to people, elected officials, who have no intention of doing what you want and continuing to go to those people and asking them for stuff is kind of nuts.
It is the definition of nuts, right?
And so, what's the answer to that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the answer to that is to put people in those seats who will actually do what you want, and like you can do that, and you can particularly do that in small communities like this because like 100 votes is the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
And
change a few minds and you change a seat.
That's right. And so I just sometimes, really wish that people could kind of see that picture a little bit more and then take action on it. And then once you put somebody into that seat, that you realize that that's not the end. That's the beginning. You have to then hold those people accountable and then give them the support that they need in order to do the work that you want them to do.
Okay, totally. As an aside again, because this is fun. I like doing it. It's the rant and then also the the splitting off from the rants. This is and it's a touchy question for me, but so you're gonna have Robin Fornoff on.
Yes.
Recently, DUI arrest. Are you going to address that at all? Do you feel the need to address that at all?
I actually don't, because so let me just be as plain as I can about that. Okay. In my past life, I have 2 DUI convinctions myself. I should have had a lot more.
Yeah, honestly, those are the times you got caught.
I should have had a lot more. To me, I said this to somebody else because I criticized some public stuff that went on when he was arrested. Right?
Crescent City Times?
Crescent City Times was one of them.
Yeah.
And to me, I saw whatever that was as a personal issue. Now, had somebody... So had there been like a hypocrisy factor?
Yeah, if he's with Champion for,
right,
stricter,
or something like that, well, then that's a different story, but so the short answer is I don't see that as being necessary to address, because to me, the most important thing to address is the role of modern journalism, and particularly the role of local journalism.
Yeah.
Because as more and more local journalistic outlets go away, there is less ability to do the type of news coverage that will allow people in those communities to fully understand what's going on, what's not going on, and what they can or cannot do about it.
Exactly.
And to me, that is much more important than having a discussion about a personal issue of an individual.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
No, it does, because your definition of there being no mitigating factor other than just this was a bad night in a dude's life, right? Nothing, he's not a hypocrite. He's not like the guy who wants to have, what was it, some politician somewhere wanted to have welfare recipients drug tested, and he's arrested for cocaine possession. None of that going on. This is just a bad night in Robin's life, and what Donna Westfall did on Crescent City Times, I thought was egregious. I thought it was horrible, and it was just a personal thing. And people coming back, it's news. That's not news. That's rumor in a small town. And there you go. It's not even a rumor anymore. It's public record. So, okay, why do this? I mean, his picture on Crescent City Times was huge right there. I mean, it's the online equivalent of Above the Fold. And there's no other, and if you know the history of this small town, and especially the quote-unquote news organizations in this small town, you know the history of Donna and the triplicate, and you see it's just this was a personal attack.
Well, and for me, and I said this on Crescent City Times as well, is that when they started wedding the fact of that they have allegedly been discriminated against by the triplicate. You're not printing our letters. Well, okay.
Said the online newspaper.
I mean, you're not printing our letters. Okay, well, okay, you could be angry about that. And you may be justified being angry about that. And at the same time, kind of like, ooh, and now we got you.
Yeah.
So we had a similar thing happen when I was in media before, and we had prominent person had gotten arrested for drunk driving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the local newspaper made a real big deal about it. And so then somebody dropped an envelope off on my doorstep with stuff about the editor of the newspaper, about bankruptcies and things like that. And you know, I made the decision. I said, we're not covering this.
Yeah, because what's the news there?
There's no news there,
Yeah.
you know. And so, you know, we're not going to get into this, you know, kind of news coverage of personal destruction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if there's something that's newsworthy, fine. I mean, I had a situation where we had a local co-op, food co-op, and there were genuine things going on. And I was covering that, and someone suggested that I shouldn't do that because they were an underwriter of the station.
Ooh.
And I said, well, you know what? If I'm being told that I cannot cover this because they're an underwriter of the station, then you can have my resignation today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. How can anybody? Okay, all right. It's just involved in local media, in community media like that, come out and say that without just feeling slimy all over. You know, oh, you can't. They're an underwriter. Don't piss them off.
Well, you
well,
know,
okay. So thanks.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was-
I think we all do stupid things, you know, at one time or another. God knows, you know. So somebody told me a phrase one time. Said, you know, I used to cry for justice until I got it, and then I begged for mercy. You know, I mean, because like, you know, do I want, you know, somebody like, you know, okay, Mike, here's all the stupid, you know, and sometimes not nice things that you have done in your life.
Yeah.
And here they are, you know. And
Put them
you
on
know,
the.
No, I don't. And at the same time, if it's truly something that is newsworthy, if it's truly something that affects the community, well, that's one thing.
Yeah.
If it's like you said, somebody had a bad night, that's not news.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Cool. Okay, it is 6 minutes away from 11. I figured we'd come in, we talk for like 20 minutes. And it's been an hour.
My guess is that there's probably very few people who know either of us who would say, oh,
That's
they'll
gonna
only
happen,
talk
yeah.
for 20 minutes.
And so all the things that we've talked about in the community, all the issues that need to be addressed and the systemic changes that need to happen, we're going to do that. With KFUG News. So 2 weeks from this coming Monday, right? 1 week. 1 week from this Monday. It was 2 weeks from when we were talking about it before.
Can I just say I'm really glad you're doing the math?
I wouldn't say I'm doing the math, but okay. So a week from this coming Monday, the debut of community. We can talk about the name more,
That's
but
fine.
the other franchise, or we can, you know, but it's going to be, we're going to bookend the week, Monday and Friday, with these two sort of public affairs shows. And dang, I'm going to have to step up my game. You've already got two great guests coming on for your first show, joined by Chief of Police Ivan Menzel and publisher and he's publisher too, right? Yeah.
I don't know if he's publisher. I think he's editor.
Just editor.
Yeah.
Editor of the Del Norte triplicate, Robin Fornoff. That's amazing. It's going to be a good show.
All you got to do, you ask. All they can do is say no.
That's right. That's right.
And they will.
And they, yeah. And I've been and I've been remiss because at Roger Gitlin's homeless confab at the fairgrounds, for lack of a better term. I was trying to come up with a smart ass term and I couldn't. Talked to Ivan Menzel after that when I was doing that piece, and yeah, he wanted to come on. I'm like, yeah, and he gave me his card, and I called, and I got voicemail, and we kind of went back and forth, and it dropped, and I'm so glad that you stayed on it. You've got him coming on. That's great.
Yeah, no, I was really, really very gratified that both of them got back to me right away and said they'd be willing to do it. So I really look forward to it.
All right, that is Monday, and then I guess are you going to join me next week on just as a last sort of foreshadowing of the?
If you would like me to,
Let's do that. Let's do that a week from today. So, Mike Thornton, thank you for retiring from True North.
Well, thanks for giving me an opportunity to be involved with KFUG. I say it, and I say it when I'm doing the music show. I mean, I genuinely believe in community radio, and am truly grateful for the opportunity to do some hopefully cool things.
And I think we will. The one of the cool things that you already do, and let's hit that, as you mentioned your radio show, Full Logic Reverse, Friday morning at 6. How was it in here? Was it cold?
It was cold.
It was cold.
No, I had the little heater like right next to me,
right.
and like but so I'm like kind of like putting my hands over the heater, just right in time to do the
It's like,
sliders.
you get one of those big old like what was it? What was the movie with the two heads? And it was a big.
Oh yeah, no, the Incredible Two-Headed Transplant.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
You know who that was? That was Rosie Greer and.
Yeah, who was the guy?
Ray Milland. Ray Milland was the rich white guy who had his head grafted onto Rosie Greer's body. We could do nerd culture.
That's just more because you've got the whole retro aspect. It was a commentary on race relations in America at the time. It was all this other stuff. But we need one of those sweaters, and you just put it over the heater.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, like I have like all this survival stuff in my van, right? Like I got space.
What do you got?
You wouldn't want to know.
You know how to make napalm, Paul?
But I do have like space blankets and stuff, so I can bring them in. Yeah,
the foil. Come in there.
Yeah. But it was Mike we featured John Coltrane this morning.
Oh, nice. What track? What do you remember? What tracks you played? I love Coltrane. Do you remember what kind of?
Blue Train. We played Monk's Move. Monk's Mood with Thelonious Monk and John Coltrane, and then also Equinox.
Other than Equinox, we've got all that stuff on vinyl.
Yeah.
But I don't have Equinox. That's on the computer. One of my favorite. That's probably my favorite jazz guy is John Coltrane.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's kind of like Bach, Beethoven, the Beatles, Miles Davis, and John Coltrane.
Exactly. Okay, so we could talk more about that too at some point. All right, let's get back into the music here. Coming up in the next hour, I want to play the first ever podcast, History del Norte, and then we'll go from there. So, Mike, thanks for coming in and joining us today. And let's see. He will be back. I'm not sure when. We still have to settle on a 3-hour block for the rebroadcast because we've joked about how early his Full Logic Reverse show is. I've never heard it live, so we just started recording it. And I think the really first time I sat through a whole show was this last week because I had it playing and I'm listening to it in the house. We go, wow, this is great.
Says, oh my God, he plays something other than King Crimson.
Exactly. Man, I'm just happy to have something other than Skid Row being played on KFUG, man.
I'm gonna go on the. Well, we did do Boomtown Rats this morning.
Did you?
We did.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
but I want a copy of all the Boomtown Rats you have. I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We know we did Boomtown Rats.
Bob Geldof.
I don't like Mondays. Yeah. Yeah. But Skid Row, no, you know what? I'm not going to say that because at some point I will probably do that.
Don't play Skid Row.
I was thinking about, and I know you're down for this, which is the Lionel Richie doing the music of Yes, King Crimson, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Oh my God!
I'm thinking a 3-hour pledge drive show.
At least.
Yeah.
Call us up and give us money, or we're going to go back into the show.
We'll play more of it.
Yeah, we're breaking new ground here, especially with fundraising. That's great. Yeah, holding the community hostage, musically hostage, until you support KFUG, and then we'll get back to the Skid Row.
We did one thing on April Fool's Day, right? Where we went into all Hawaiian music, and then we started like telling people were calling in, and we're going, no, KVMR has gone. This is it. We're going to do 24/7 Hawaiian music because our Hawaiian music show was actually one of the pledge drive shows that brought in money.
Oh, wow.
And so we just went, that's it, 24/7 Hawaiian music. And people were going ape dump, you know what I mean? Yeah, and like it took them like a few hours to figure it out that it was like April 1st, right?
But see, you let the Hawaiian music play those few hours.
Oh yes,
right? That's great.
Oh yeah.
You got to have a little fun. Exactly. All right. Back into the music right around the corner from History del Norte. Mike Thornton, thank you very much. Catch him at some point this next week, the recorded version of today's show, but certainly next Friday morning, 6 a.m. for Full Logic Reverse, and then we'll sit down again next Friday and talk about your show, which will debut the following Monday.
Absolutely. Sounds like a plan.
I did all that. I just stayed with days, and I avoided the math.
Yeah. And you did it well.
Thank you so very much. All right, here's a couple of underwriting announcements and my favorite Red Hot Chili Peppers song.
For over 60 years, the Thompson family of Klamath has been an integral part of the Del Norte community. Whether it was helping less fortunate victims of the '64 Christmas flood or attracting millions of visitors over the years to their family-owned, one-of-a-kind attraction, the Trees of Mystery, The Thompsons have lived by the adage that community starts at home. Their presence and involvement in Del Norte life has been as ubiquitous as Paul Bunyan's wave to passing motorists on 101. KFUG would like to thank the Thompsons for their service and passion in our community, and we'd like to especially thank the Thompson family for their support of community radio in Del Norte. Thank you for supporting KFUG.
Funding for this program has been provided by the Mailroom and Copy Center, the designated shipping center for UPS, FedEx, and freight for Del Norte County. The Mailroom can also package and crate your items for you. For your convenience, they have a photocopy and business services center, private mailbox rentals, computer rentals, and a notary on staff. The Mailroom and Copy Center at 707-465-4063 or www.mailroomcc.com.
Stop in the Mailroom and Copy Center's new location, 900 North Crest Drive in Crescent City, and thank them for supporting your community radio station, KFUG.